I don't believe in coincidences, but it is kind of interesting that we just did a lesson in Amos on Amos interceding on Israel's behalf for God to not um, apply judgments upon them with insect judgments and drought judgment. And then how next lesson will be on the plumb line of how God desires his people to not intercede on his will and judgments. But I'm asking for prayer for my wife and the doctor's appointment that I'm taking her to this morning. Praying that God's will be done. Now, this has been going on with her for quite some time, about 1.5 years. Almost 2 years. And to just quickly give you a little back history on it, and then I'll get to the point of why it's crucial that I'm now taking her to the doctors, because about 2.5 years ago, my wife was working at Belk for quite some time, that Clinique and Lancome. When you walk in Belk, you get knocked down by the perfume, those kind of kiosks. She was working there. And one night she was cooking dinner and got bit by something. We don't know if it was a tick or a spider or what. She just smacked her leg and there was a little blood on it and there was a dead insect. Didn't really think much about it. Then the next day was Black Friday and she worked like 27 hours straight. 24, 27 hours straight, something like that. On her feet. All that time. And she went to bed, and the next day she could hardly walk. Hardly walk. A fit woman. Beautiful. Fit. Could hardly walk the next day. And we didn't know what to think of it, really. So after a couple of weeks of that, she went to the doctor. So, like I said, I'm just going to skip through a bunch of this, but basically, for about 1 year, back in 2018, something like that, she went to doctors, got diagnosed for rheumatoid arthritis, took those crazy medications that are on TV, on the commercials, saying that, they show people playing on a playground and families hugging, but they say in real elegant words that side effects could cause this, that, and the other. Yeah, that kind of medicine. She was on that. And then 6 months later, she'd be diagnosed with something else because there'd be another symptom from rheumatoid arthritis to fibromyalgia. And then 3-4 months after that, it'd go from fibromyalgia to rheumatoid arthritis or something else crazy. So all this medication she was taking. So she was starting to have psychiatric symptoms like delusions and schizophrenia and all that. All that went on for about 1.5 years. And so in 2018, and she had to quit her job, of course, through that whole year. And then 2019 rolls around. She went to the emergency room because her legs got swollen. Well, she had cellulitis. The symptoms of cellulitis, where your legs swell up, has something to do with your white blood cell count and all that. Well, the way she was acting and talking and rhyming syllables and stuff, they admitted her to the behavioral health place at the hospital for 4 days, which is the mental place. So she went through that and then got out and was like, why would you put me in that place and all that? And it was, that's what the doctors did. We're trying to figure out what's wrong with her. And then not too far after that, another 3 months might have gone by, she went back into the emergency room, checked in for the same thing. Her legs swelling, cellulitis. And I think it was her birthday, and me and my oldest daughter, Mason, went up to visit her, and she didn't have her phone charger. Okay. So I walked across the highway to Kroger to buy her phone charger. When I got back, security guards met me and told me I had to leave. I was banned from the hospital. I was like, what? Because they said that my wife said that I stole her medicine. Yeah. And I went to the front desk to the administrator and said, that's not true. That's a fable. She's got mental problems. Can y'all not pull her records from across the street at the mental health place to see that? And they said, no, you cannot request records. Your wife has taken you off of in the know of what's wrong with her. Patient, doctor, confidentiality. Can you believe that? That's what happened to me. So bizarre, so bizarre. So I went home, and she checked herself out of the hospital. I called there 2 days later to the hospital to see when she was going to leave, and they said, no, she checked herself out of the hospital. And I said, you let someone that's severely sick and having psychological hallucinations and such just unhook, and walk out of the hospital? So I called my mother-in-law, and she called the hospital because they wouldn't tell me anything because I was deemed not to know, to be not in the know. And they finally sent someone down there to intercept her from the lobby because she was trying to find a ride to who knows where. You know, she's not in her right mind. And mind you, this was back in 2019. So she went back and stayed at the hospital for a couple more days, and then she was released by the hospital. And on the way home, she said she refuses to come home if I'm there because I've put cameras in the TVs and in the microwave. I know this is bizarre, but I'm trying to lead you up to why I'm taking her to the doctor finally after 2 years almost. That I put cameras in the microwave and the television, and that I'll work for the government, and that she won't come home if I'm there. I mean, I do work for the government, but not in the manner in which she thought I worked for the government. She thought I was like an agent, spying on her or something like that. So my father-in-law got involved somehow and said, no, you're going home. You're going home. Stop acting like this. So she says, I can't go home because he beats me. Okay. I can see where she gets that from because all the psychologists that we took her to, when we would go for a simple appointment, she would get combative. And bless her heart, she didn't know what she was doing. She still doesn't know what she's doing. What she sees in the physical, she's interpreting in her mind in like a movie, if that makes sense. It wouldn't make sense to you unless you've experienced it or you've had experience in studying schizophrenia, the symptoms of it, because that's what she's got, is the symptoms of these things from some kind of infection, whether it was Lyme's disease from the bite or what, because untreated Lyme's disease can cause severe psychiatric symptoms unless dealt with. So my father-in-law endorsed her statement that I beat her. Okay, and that comes from in her head that the psychologist telling me that if she refuses to go to an appointment and gets irate and combative, to restrain her, because eventually in 2 or 3 minutes their anger will subside and they'll calm down and just be peaceful, which usually always happened. But no, he endorsed that thought and said, Daniel, you've got to go. She don't want you there. You need to leave. I don't know if you're going to your buddy's house or your parents' house. Don't know where you're going, but you got to leave. So I did. And packed what I thought was sustenance at the time, my landscaping equipment and my books, everything that was in my study. And, maybe 3 or 4 outfits because I live in work clothes, my work clothes. And so there it stood. They relegated themselves to be her caretaker, to make sure she went to appointments and kept up with the appointments. Well, that never happened. Because from that time in 2019, latter part of 2019 till now, she would get irate and combative and say, I'm not going to the appointment. So they just easily, okay, you're not going to the appointment. They would set more appointments. And when it would come about, she's mad, she's irate. The only way to calm her is to agree with her. Okay, we won't take her to the appointment. So she has just declined and gotten worse. There's so much more I could say about this bizarre way of life that I'm in right now. But it's been hard. I miss my children. I see my oldest daughter weekly. And they're all at my defense through all this, mind you. And those parents are just so fundamentally unlearned and ignorant to endorse her statement at one time. And now they can't get out of it. Because she would get irate and combative whenever they would say he needs to come back or whatever. No, Daniel's not coming back. In fact, my name wasn't Daniel at times. It was Donnie and Stephen. I've had a bunch of names. But anyway, she's ill. It's sad. But I miss my homestead. I miss my animals. I miss my family. But what has gotten me through all this is my way of life, of God and the Scriptures. That's what's held me together. I could have easily gone back to be a drunk. It's crossed my mind many a time. But I combated those desires by living in the Word. Things are what they are. And I'm not saying that's relevant to today about in Luke and those passages that say mother will turn against daughter and father against son for my name's sake, for Christ's name's sake. I'm not saying that's relevant to today. But that went on in humanity then. Because she would always say, you don't know my God. I pray that you know my God. She would say that. And she was a godly woman. But in her right mind, not being in her right mind, she wasn't talking about the God that she has worshipped all her life. And, so overnight she went from turnkey grade A mother, grade A turnkey Christian and wife, to just mentally totally sick ill. But so many things I could say. But it's gotten to the point that a month ago her parents told me to please take the reins of giving Shannon help. And I made them send me proof of that in an email in case she got crazy when I showed up or whatever. In fact, I have showed up. The refrigerator went out. I had to go buy him a $900 refrigerator 2 weekends ago and take it down there. In a house I don't even live in. I paid the bills, replace appliances in a house I don't even live in. And got them to email me proof that I was to take over the reins of this situation with getting her care because they fell short. They fell short. They dropped the ball. She's gotten significantly worse in this last year and a half because of their default. And someone needs to be held accountable for this medical malpractice of their daughter in whatever way, shape, or form it comes. But it took about a month to get an appointment. Me and my oldest daughter found an infectious disease doctor that we're taking her to this morning. And that's why I'm asking for prayer that she will submit to the invitation to go to the doctor. We've told her. And of course at the time she's like, sure, great, I'll go to the doctor. But she thinks nothing's wrong with her. She thinks it's everyone else that has a problem, but not her. And I still think, I don't know if you've ever heard of Susanna Cahalan, but she had a disease called anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis. In fact, there's a movie made about her called Brain on Fire. I think that's what my wife has. So now that I'm in charge, and I have the authority to take her to the doctor now, and she can't override me, we're going to this infectious disease doctor because all these doctors have taken the easy way out. Oh, well, she's got rheumatoid. Put her on pharmaceuticals. Oh, she's got fibromyalgia. Put her on these pharmaceuticals. It's money-making business. And they all want to send her back to the psychiatrist, which really do nothing because whatever her malfunction is, she's suffering from the symptoms of these psychological problems. The psychosis, the hallucinations, the delusions, the schizophrenia. So I pray that, and I ask you guys to pray that my wife will submit to me and my daughter taking her this morning to this infectious disease doctor to find out what has contaminated her blood, her system, that has put her in this cocoon of mental chaos. Just don't know. If she doesn't, what do? Manhandle her and put her in the car to go? Then she calls the cops and says that she's being beaten. Those parents of hers have just let this go so far. So far, just has dug a hole deeper for her. And what gets me is back when she said she wanted me out of the house because of the cameras I put in the TV and all this other stuff, they believed it. They were hoodwinked. They can't take 23 years of marriage to their daughter and know my character for that amount of time to just say, oh, she wants you gone. Just because she got irate and angry and that was the way to cool her down and to calm her down. Pathetic. Pathetic. So for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, I've been living in my parents' basement. 47 years old, grown man. I tell you what, and even with my $2 in my defense, my two daughters this whole time telling them, Mom's not right, she's making things up. These things are crazy, she's saying. Well, they finally figured it out now. And now they're asking for my help. Please intervene. Please, we give you permission. Take her to these doctors. Do what you've got to do. So pray she goes with us to the doctor this morning, so we can get the ball rolling with getting my wife well, okay? So much more I could say. I just kept it short and sweet to build you up to why I'm asking for prayer for my wife, for her to make this visit to the doctor this morning. So, anyway, till next time.